Lewis Hamilton, though, what a shocker of a weekend he had. He wasn't fast at all until FP3. He was lost in qualifying. His teammate qualified him by 6/10 of a second. Out of the last corner. It's once, it's twice, it's 3 times a winner in 2019 for Lewis Hamilton. And for the 5th race running, Mercedes score a 1-2 in a Grand Prix.
It's Lewis Hamilton who is dominant here in the first official race of the European season. Welcome to the Grand Review podcast for the Spanish Grand Prix. It's the first official European race of the year, which means the teams have brought all their new kit to the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. The motorhomes are back, and we're back to the familiar pre-season testing venue. Welcome to Catalunya. It's our first stop on the European calendar. After this we go to Monaco, then we can make a brief trip to the North Americas with Canada, then it's France, Austria, Great Britain, Germany, Hungary, Belgium and Italy, and rounds out in September before the flyaway start for Singapore, Russia, Japan, then Mexico, USA, Brazil, and the season rounds out in Abu Dhabi. The first 4 races, it's Bottas and Hamilton, 2 apiece after Australia, Bahrain, China, and Azerbaijan. And that means the title looks like this coming into Barcelona. 1 point just separates the top 2. Valtteri Bottas 87. That point for the fastest lap in Australia still counting. But Bottas and Hamilton spreading out the 1-2s at the opening 4 races. 1 point behind Sebastian Vettel is Max Verstappen 51 to Vettel's 52. And Leclerc in 5th place on 47. Still yet to score Antonio Giovinazzi, Romain Grosjean, George Russell and Robin Kubica. In the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes are 72 points clear of Ferrari, 173, Ferrari on 99, Red Bull on 64, McLaren 18, followed then by Racing Point on 17, 13 for Alfa Romeo, 12 for Renault, 8 for Haas, 4 for Toro Rosso, and none point for Rocket Williams Racing. Hello everybody and welcome to the Grand Review podcast for the 2019 Spanish Grand Prix, the first official European race of the season. I'm Joshua Birch, I'm up in the commentary box at the moment just after the Grand Prix. Joining me later on will be our pit lane reporter Ian Birch, who's also my father. Megan Birch still taking this race off, she'll be back in Monaco in 2 weeks' time. So what a session it was that we just saw, especially for the Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton victorious for the second race run after winning in Azerbaijan, and now after what has been pretty much a Mercedes weekend all the way through, topping every single session. Ferrari have been so far off the pace, as well as Red Bull. Coming into this weekend, of course, Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas were pretty much neck and neck in the World Championship, just about equal points, but that fastest lap bonus point still getting Lewis Hamilton after Valtteri Bottas scored it back in Australia. But on Friday afternoon, free practice 1 got underway, and yet again it was Valtteri Bottas who was fastest. Let's take a look now at the free practice 1 report. Let's get on to the Friday practice reviews then and start straight away with having in free practice 1. It was the winner last time out in Baku, Valtteri Bottas, the championship leader as well, by just 1 point to his teammate Lewis Hamilton, who dominated the opening session in a very heavily updated Mercedes. Not so heavily updated as the Ferrari, as they seek to gain an advantage to Mercedes. They've brought their new engine upgrade package here. Unfortunately, they finished 2nd and 3rd. Vettel was just a 10th of a second off Bottas. Leclerc was 2 tenths off. Bottas' fastest time was a 1:17.951. Hamilton was 4th, and Grosjean, surprisingly, was in 5th place as well. First time this year that the top 5 hasn't either been Bottas, Vettel, Leclerc, Hamilton or Verstappen. Verstappen outside of the top 5 for the first time this year. With both Mercedes and Ferrari, as I said, running heavily updated cars this weekend as the European season officially begins, it was the Silver Arrows dominating on Friday morning, although Bottas' advantage over Vettel was only a 10th of a second, and this happiness of being fastest would have been checked by a suspected hydraulic leak. So that put him out of the running for the last half an hour of the session. So bad luck already for Bottas. It struck him, stuck him in the garage for the last half an hour. A fairly smooth running of 89 minutes of the 90 scheduled. Meanwhile, Lance Stroll brought out the red flags with a big snap of oversteer coming into turn 9, like you saw in our track guide yesterday. That when turn 9 goes wrong, it goes wrong badly. Remember last year, Brendan Hartley in the Toro Rosso catching the side and going into the barrier. We saw in pre-season testing Pierre Gasly doing exactly the same thing. Now add Lance Stroll just catching the rear tyre on the side of the gravel curb exit and straight off into turn 9's barrier. Not as heavily though as we saw Gasly or Hartley do it though, so quite lucky that he only knocked off the front wheel and he was all right. Absent from the top positions, as I said, were the Red Bulls, who opted not to run the soft tyres during the first practice session. Pierre Gasly ended up 8th fastest for the team, while Verstappen was 12th, the Dutchman having endured an eventful FP1 that saw him narrowly avoid Valtteri Bottas of all people. Now, coming into turns 14, 15, the little chicane at the end of the circuit, you know how tight it is, you saw on the track guide, Bottas sort of went to cut off Verstappen mid-corner. Verstappen had to back off before returning into him, and he wasn't happy, the Dutchman gesturing to the Finn. But, unfortunately, the same thing happened to Verstappen. That happened to Bottas. A hydraulic oil leak meant that Verstappen had to take his entire floor off, and he was out of running as well at the end of the session. Haas planned to spend Friday doing a compare and contrast on their own upgrades to the cars, with Romain Grosjean testing the new parts and Kevin Magnussen set to get them on Saturday, should they be found to be effective on the Friday sessions. Unfortunately, they were very effective, as it turns out, with Grosjean getting in within a second of Bottas' time in 5th place, despite a few scrappy moments with the Frenchman over the 2/10 up on Magnussen was able to manage in the old VF19 spec car. Sandwiched between the two Haas cars came local hero Carlos Sainz, who I saw during pre-season testing there were some fans for him here, which is great news. Formula 1 was very worried that there wouldn't be as fans for Carlos Sainz after Fernando Alonso retired. But it was a Mercedes 1-2 in the end of that session. Let's take a look at the times right now. So the first free practice for the Spanish Grand Prix. Valtteri Bottas on top of 1:17.951, followed by Sebastian Vettel on 1:18.066, Charles Leclerc on a 1:18.172, Lewis Hamilton on 1:18.575, Romain Grosjean on 1:18.943, Carlos Sainz at 1:19.155, Kevin Magnussen on a 1:19.180, Pierre Gasly at 1:19.285, Danny Kvyat on 1:19.364, and Nico Hülkenberg rounding out the top 10 on 1:19.450. Daniel Ricciardo 11th at 1:19.511, Max Verstappen 12th at 1:19.844, Lance Stroll 13th at 1:19.855, followed by Antonio Giovinazzi at 1:20.021, Alexander Albon in 15th at 1:20.030, Lando Norris is 16th at 1:20.066, followed by Sergio Perez at 1:24.59. That's then followed by Kimi Räikkönen at 1:25.91. Robbie Kubica at 19th at 1:28.89, followed by George Russell in 20th on a 1:20.990. So Bottas fastest in that session. Good stuff from Ferrari, second and third. They've brought their updated engine to this event, so it should be quite interesting to see what developments they've got. Haas are up there as well, 5th and 7th for Grosjean and Magnussen. Pretty much a clean run in the morning session. But FP2 in the afternoon was where the race runs happened, and everyone just went that little bit more crazy as Mercedes and Ferrari battled it out to see who would be best in the race runs. Here's FP2's report. So let's get on to free practice 2 report, and it was Valtteri Bottas once again dominating. It seems the Friday sessions, he tops FP2 on a 1:17.284, just 0.049, so less than 0.05 of a second goes Lewis Hamilton in second place. Charles Leclerc third, Max Verstappen fourth, and restoring natural order, Max Verstappen going into 5th place as well. It's advantage Mercedes at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. Championship leader Bottas confirming his supreme opening practice pace An even quicker tour in FP2 though to beat Hamilton and leave the Ferraris 0.3 of a second adrift, and Ferrari with those massive engine upgrades, remember, so not very a good day at Ferrari. They've also got some new oil as well coming into this race as well. Ferrari, who looked so strong in Spain during pre-season testing, they ended the last day of pre-season testing 0.003 of a second faster than Mercedes. We thought, oh great, it's going to be a close year. Ferrari got the upper advantage going on previous days' tests, but no, Mercedes had bolted. It's unbelievable. Ferrari now playing catch-up since Australia as well. Charles Leclerc got closest, 0.3 off the pace of the two Mercedes. Sebastian Vettel, who went wide coming out of the exit of turn 12 on his quickest soft tyre run, a fraction behind in fourth. The duo held a healthy gap to Red Bull Max Verstappen, a quarter of a second slower than Valtteri Bottas overall. Haas had high hopes of bouncing back from a dreadful start to the 2019 season, as we said, but pretty much a brand new car, says Romain Grosjean, for this year in Barcelona, but the car was good. Grosjean was 5th in the opening session. He was 6th in FP2, 0.8 tenths off the pace, but the teammate Kevin Magnussen, who was heavily blocked by Charles Leclerc on his fast lap, 8th. The duo sandwiched the other Red Bull of Pierre Gasly and looked like the midfield leaders so far in Barcelona. McLaren now, local hero Carlos Sainz finished in the points every time he's contested an F1 race on home soil here in Spain. He was 9th and he was the leading McLaren. Toro Rosso's Dani Kvyat closed out in 10th place despite the runoff down at turn 1. After crashing in the last minute to free practice 1, Racing Points did an amazing job of getting Lance Stroll's car ready for free practice 2 in the hour and 45 minute gap we had between the two sessions. Back out on track with an hour of the session to go. Unfortunately, he was forced to run a series of older parts during the second session because there weren't enough time to get some fixed of the damaged new parts, but the team are hopeful they can get them fully updated, ready for tomorrow's FP3 and qualifying. The session passed largely without incident. Robert Kubica's spin on cold tyres when he was about to start a flying lap coming out of that tight turn 14-15 complex was the biggest drama. Almost all teams able to gather plenty of data on the new updates package as well as we go into tomorrow's qualifying session. Let's take a look at the times then for free practice 2. So the second practice session saw Valtteri Bottas making a Mercedes 1-2. Bottas top at 1:17.284, Hamilton second at 1:17.333. Charles Leclerc third at 1:17.585, Sebastian Vettel is fourth at 1:17.673, Max Verstappen fifth at 1:18.035, followed by Romain Grosjean sixth at 1:18.153, Pierre Gasly seventh at 1:18.238, Kevin Magnussen eighth at 1:18.355, that's followed by Carlos Sainz in ninth at 1:18.658, and Dani Kvyat in 10th at 1:18.722. On a 1:18.727 is our 11th place man of Kimi Raikkonen. 12th for Alexander Albon at 1:18.779, followed by Lance Stroll 13th at 1:18.839. Then it's Nico Hülkenberg on a 1:18.861. Then at drop down we see a 1:18.934 for Daniel Ricciardo. Lando Norris on a 1:19.041. Antonio Giovinazzi at 1:19.427. Sergio Perez at 1:19.448. George Russell 19th at 1:21.91. And then 20th once again is Robbie Kubica on a 1:27.81. Sheer dominance from Mercedes then on Friday. Valtteri Bottas topping the timesheets on a 1:17.284. Lewis Hamilton second, Charles Leclerc third, and Sebastian Vettel fourth. So Mercedes 1-2, Ferrari 3-4. Haas were up there again. They split the two Red Bulls. Verstappen was fifth, Grosjean was sixth for Haas, seventh for Gasly, 8th for Magnussen in the other Haas as well. Sainz 9th, the only McLaren inside the top 10, with Dani Kvyat rounding up as well. Pretty much a good day. Bad day if your name is Sergio Perez, 18th overall. Antonio Giovinazzi as well, 17th overall. Lando Norris not great, but still no improvement from the Renaults. They said that they wanted to have a better Grand Prix here in Spain. Not a great result. They were 14th and 15th, Hülkenberg and Ricciardo. So going into Saturday, it all looked pretty much like it was a Mercedes wash, and we were just wondering what was going to happen. So let's take a quick look at what happened in the final free practice session, the last chance all these drivers get to make their mark ahead of qualifying. Here's the free practice 3 report. Now, this has been a very interesting free practice 3 session because everything seems to have just exploded. Lewis Hamilton has ended the session fastest, half a second clear of the nearest Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, and that is just impressive to say the least. Mercedes continued their dominance of the Spanish Grand Prix weekend. On Saturday morning, Lewis Hamilton leading the final session on a 1:16.568. That's ahead of Charles Leclerc, who's 5 tenths down. Valtteri Bottas was third, Sebastian Vettel fourth, and Romain Grosjean once again in fifth place. A very strong position for Romain so far. With the bright sunshine of Friday replaced by muggy and overbearing clouds and a threat of rain, so much so that the FIA actually released an extra set of intermediate tyres to the teams because they were unsure how the weather was going to be for free practice 3. You'd have expected drivers to struggle early on in these cooler conditions compared to free practice 2, sorry. But no, FP3 was actually quite good. Sebastian Vettel had a little spin in his Ferrari and then just towards turn 14. Hamilton had to catch a big snap of oversteer through the final corner of turn 16. Then 20 minutes into the session, Valtteri Bottas lost the rear of his Mercedes at turn 5 and brought out the first red flag of the session. Not great news at all. Over the radio he said, "Bleep, I'm stuck." The Finn growling over the radio as the red flags were thrown. After a break of just 6 minutes to recover the car, some really quick work by the marshals here, the session got back underway, and Hamilton, using his Mercedes to become the only driver of the weekend to post a sub 1:17 lap time, a comfortable 1:16.568. We're expecting that to drop dramatically into the low minute 1:16s for qualifying. Valtteri Bottas, though, did manage to get back out on the track, and as I said, set the third fastest time in the session. Before that, when he actually spun, he didn't set a time at all, so he lost a lot of running. Behind the leading Ferraris and Mercedes, Haas were delighted to see their drivers in 5th and 6th place. Romain Grosjean's leading time for the team, just 0.624 seconds behind Hamilton's front-running pace. Kevin Magnussen was able to post a time some 3/100ths of a second quicker than Max Verstappen managed in the Red Bull. It seems that the American team's desire to play with Red Bull in qualifying might actually come to fruition. Rivals Renault believed Friday's running that they had a car that could make qualifying 3, but they need to find a bit of performance between now and qualifying if that's the case. Nico Hülkenberg's best time good enough for 12th, and Carlos Sainz's McLaren was just 3 tenths adrift of Sainz in 10th place. And Renault, the fastest Renault engine seems to be McLaren at the moment. Williams occupied the now traditional final row, 19th and 20th, unfortunately, but there was a rare mistake from rookie George Russell, who backed his FW42 into the barriers at turn 4 with 4 minutes of the session to go. That brought out the red flag, and then we got the message that the session would not be restarted, so everyone lost that 4 minutes. Ferrari wanted to use the Spanish Grand Prix weekend to get back on terms with Mercedes, but ahead of qualifying, it looks like it's Mercedes who have the advantage. Let's take a look at the times now for the third and final free practice session from the Grand Prix de España. So the third and final practice session sees Lewis Hamilton 5/10 clear of Charles Leclerc second, but a 1:16.568 for Hamilton. Leclerc 1:17.099. Bottas third, despite putting in the gravel trap early on 1:17.123. A 1:17.172 for Sebastian Vettel in fourth. Romain Grosjean fifth, a 1:17.192. Kevin Magnussen sixth, a 1:17.530. Max Verstappen is seventh, a 1:17.558. Alexander Albon eighth on a 1:17.864. Kimi Raikkonen 9th at 1:17.969 and 10th for Carlos Sainz at 1:18.003. Danny Kvyat 11th at 1:18.105. Nico Hülkenberg is 12th at 1:18.350. Sergio Perez is 13th at 1:18.656. Pierre Gasly 14th at 1:18.693. Lance Stroll 15th at 1:18.734. Antonio Giovinazzi 16th at 1:18.740. Danny Ricciardo 17th at 1:18.974, a 1:19.007 for Lando Norris, George Russell 19th at 1:19.421, and Robin Kubica 20th at 1:20.570. So Lewis Hamilton was dominant in free practice 3 on Saturday morning. Charles Leclerc was second fastest, so it's Mercedes, Ferrari, to quote what Megan said last season. Haas were 5th and 6th though, we had a Grosjean and Magnussen. Bad session as well if your name was Lando Norris, 18th overall. Not a great run either in the session. A few red flags, a few spins out there as well. A session which I wasn't actually commentating on due to other commitments, so I had Megan on commentary for that one, although she's not actually doing the race. You know how it works. But great news from Hamilton. And Bottas just getting up there, 5/10 off. Hamilton had a 5/10 gap to Leclerc and Bottas. It's looking good for Hamilton pole position. But if you're a wise betting man, you bet Mercedes. But which one? Lewis Hamilton or Valtteri Bottas? Here's what happened in the qualifying report. Right, let's get into the qualifying report then, and as usual we'll go through qualifyings 1, 2 and 3 as they happened. And Q1, Hülkenberg falls out after an early shunt and Stroll misses Q2 for the 9th straight race in a row. That includes his time at Williams and now his time at Racing Point. With just a few minutes of qualifying gone, Nico Hülkenberg got badly out of shape going through turn 4. It's an uphill section of the track, and if you go wide there, you're going into the gravel. He did that and he went straight off as well into the wall. Not as hard as we've seen some other drivers do it. As he tried to correct the slide, his RS19 pushed through the gravel, unearthed the barrier, the soft impact enough to break the front wing of the car. We have since learned that after qualifying 16th and being eliminated in qualifying 1, that he will start from the pit lane due to the fact that the wing that Renault replaced was not of the same specification. And Joe Barr, the FIA technical delegate, reported this to the stewards, and the stewards on Sunday morning decided that he will start from the pit lane. So not a great news overall for him. Hülkenberg's incident left him at the back foot and saw him failed to make out of Q1 for the second time this year, despite finishing just 0.019 behind 15th placed teammate of Daniel Ricciardo, while Russell recovered to the end of the segment in a pretty P19, unfortunately, but of course he's got a 3-place grid penalty for a gearbox. Out went the pair of the Alfa Romeos and Antonio Giovinazzi, whose teammate Kimi Räikkönen made it through to Q2 in P13. The Racing Point of Lance Stroll out in Q1 for the 9th consecutive weekend, and the second Williams of Robert Kubica was the slowest overall. We saw Lando Norris finish an impressive P6, a mere 0.632 behind Valtteri Bottas as he led Q1, and Kevin Magnussen round out as well the top 15. Knocked out, Hülkenberg, Stroll, Giovinazzi, Russell and Kubica. On to qualifying 2. McLaren failed to convert the pace. Ricciardo squeezes through. Having looked rapid all weekend, it was a disappointing qualifying 2 for McLaren, with both Lando Norris and local hero Carlos Sainz failing to make it through to the final part of qualifying. Alexander Albon will have similarly been annoyed as well, having joined Toro Rosso teammate Danny Kvyat in qualifying 3, and Kimi Räikkönen and Sergio Perez, whose Alfa Romeo and Racing Point cars looked unhappy so far this weekend. They failed to make the cut. Knocked out, Norris, Albon, Sainz, Raikkonen and Perez. And qualifying, brief jump cut there, just ignore that. Let's move on to qualifying 3. Bottas takes 9th pole position of his Formula 1 career with a brand new track record. Valtteri Bottas has looked like a man on a mission all weekend long, fastest in FP1 and 2, fastest Quali 1, Quali 2 and Quali 3. The first run left him 0.364 seconds clear of teammate Lewis Hamilton as the second run approached. Ultimately, neither driver would improve, with Bottas claiming his 3rd pole position in a row since China, Azerbaijan and now here in Spain, and by far the most dominant of his career by 0.6 of a second out qualifying 5-time champion Lewis Hamilton. Sebastian Vettel was simply unable to go faster than his own effort in qualifying 3, and he finished qualifying 3rd on the grid, a full 0.866 away, despite claiming that the car doesn't feel all that bad. Mercedes definitely seem to be sandbagging during pre-season testing, it seems. Max Verstappen did a fine job to split the Ferraris, finishing 4th ahead of Charles Leclerc. The top 5 incidentally the same as they finished in Baku, while Pierre Gasly was 6th in the second Red Bull. Haas converted their pace to sit in a midfield class of 1, Grosjean ahead of Magnussen, while Danny Kvyat, Daniel Ricciardo rounded out the top 10. Kvyat's time was a full 0.662 back from Romain Grosjean's. Haas seemed to have just electrified this weekend as well. So Mercedes maintain their 7 Grand Prix streaks of pole positions here at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. The last driver who wasn't a Mercedes to be on pole position was Pastor Maldonado at the 2012 Spanish Grand Prix. Williams using Renault's engines though in that year. So let's take a look at the full grid then for the Spanish Grand Prix. So Valtteri Bottas starts on pole position for the 9th time in his Formula 1 career in his 3rd race in a row. Alongside him on row 1 his teammate Lewis Hamilton. Row 2 Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen. Row 3 Charles Leclerc, Pierre Gasly. Row 4 Romain Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen. Row 5 Daniel Kvyat and Lando Norris promoted to the top 10. Row 6 sees Alexander Albon and Carlos Sainz. Row 7, Daniel Ricciardo with a 3-place grid penalty for causing the collision back in Azerbaijan by reversing it to Daniel Kvyat. He's alongside Kimi Raikkonen in 14th place. Then on row 8 we see Sergio Perez and Lance Stroll. Row 9 sees Robert Kubica and Antonio Giovinazzi, who has a 5-place grid penalty for replacement gearbox. The same goes for George Russell, who starts in 19th place on row 10. And drivers required to start for the pit lane, Nico Hülkenberg, after changing the front wing, and additional power unit elements have also been used and the car modified while under parc fermé conditions. Bottas on pole position then for the 3rd race running. Hamilton alongside the Spanish Grand Prix at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. Your commentators Joshua Birch and Ian Birch.
The Spanish Grand Prix, race 5, lap 1.
Mercedes have won 4 races in a row. Can they win 5 in a row? All 5 lights are on. Action in Catalunya. Great start by Bottas. Hamilton as well. Vettel got a good launch. Bottas immediately goes to the front of Hamilton, but Vettel comes out of nowhere. Side by side into turn 1, 3 abreast. Bottas on the inside. Vettel locks up. Little contact between Hamilton and Bottas. Bottas sliding into Vettel. Vettel almost hitting Leclerc, who goes wide. The 2 Red Bulls say thank you very much. They're side by side with the 2 Ferraris. Leclerc pushes Gasly off the track. Grosjean comes into play as Verstappen looks to the inside of Bottas. Magnussen on the inside there of Danny Kvyat. Albon with the McLaren now as well. Hamilton leads down to turn 5. Bottas second, 3rd place already for Verstappen, down to 4th. Already goes Sebastian Vettel. Yellow out sector 2, and they've gone green now. So battle on, race on. Hamilton leads. Bottas second, Verstappen 3rd, Vettel 4th, Leclerc 5th, 6th place for Gasly, 7th place for Grosjean as well. Magnussen moving up the order as well. But a clean start from everybody. No one at the moment seems to be having an issue on the track. We've got Kimi Raikkonen down in the back. Down to race control.
Yeah, Raikkonen went off on the 3rd or 4th turn there. Went straight into the gravel but was rejoined.
Replay
the start then. Watch out for Bottas. Well, we get an okay start. Hamilton gets a blistering start, but the great start comes from Sebastian Vettel, who was able to get a great launch in that Ferrari. Hamilton again, like he was seen, a little bit of wheel spin, but gets alongside his teammate. Vettel gets in the draft of Bottas, pulls to the outside, and then down into turn 1, it's the crunch point. Vettel locks up. Hamilton just touches the side of Lewis. Side of Bottas, I should say. Vettel locked up, flat spotted the tyre. And this is on board with Verstappen. This should be a great view of the battle up front. He's got the best seat in the house, Max Verstappen. Down to turn 1, pulls to the outside. What do you make of this one down to Sky's control?
Well, it looked like to me that Bottas had some kind of problem off the line.
Yeah.
He didn't get away as well as the other 2.
Yep, and Vettel was slipped back behind. Look at the move right round the outside. A great move from Verstappen, right round the outside. And this is Raikkonen. Is this why he went wide in turn 4? You mentioned this in the commentary just a few laps ago on the opening lap. Yes, he did. You saw it at Sky's control. Raikkonen wide at turn 4, just like we saw Mick Schumacher do in Formula 2 yesterday in the feature race. This is it from Bottas. So watch. There's the contact with Hamilton. There's the oversteer. Corrects. And Vettel nearly hits the back as well of Bottas coming back onto the track.
lap 8.
Yeah, well, Ferrari have got to do something about this, because Vettel, I know he's the number 1 driver, but he's definitely now holding up Charles Leclerc. So Leclerc needs to get past.
Are they going to institute team orders this early on in a Grand Prix? 8:66. Leclerc has got the fresher rubber, of course, and he hasn't flat spotted the tyre to Sebastian Vettel. So are they going to institute team orders like we saw in Canada? Sorry, not Canada, China. Canada's 2 races away. 1 second, now less than a second, so 9/10 of a second the gap, 0.987, and now it's 1 second exactly. So he's going to have DRS because there's the detection point. He's less than a second. Is he going to try and close down?
Lap 12.
We're just going to hear that Vettel's been told to let him through. So Vettel's been told to let Leclerc through.
Well, yeah, because he's been holding him up for the last couple of laps. That's 3 to 4 laps longer than it should have been. You know, it's ridiculous. They are to blame for their own strategy, and they are to blame for the fact that they don't win more races.
And as you say that, through goes Charles Leclerc. He has been let loose on the rest of the field. Vettel back down to 5th. And as you said, it is their own fault, and this call should have come a few more laps to go, as Martin said. So this is really now defence for Ferrari.
Lap 25.
Raikkonen having to defend from Danny Kvyat. Kvyat has got the run on Raikkonen now, all the way up through turn 3. He's going to pull to the outside. He can't get through there. Going to have to pull off. Raikkonen there will defend into turn 4. Kvyat goes right round the outside. Can't get a move, but gets much better drag mid-corner. And can he pull it off into turn 5? Yes, he can. And secures it into turn 5. What a brilliant move from Danny Kvyat. That was absolutely textbook as well.
Yeah, since he came back, Kvyat's learned a lot from his previous things in Formula One. That was a very mature turn of events there. If you'd gone back a few years, he'd have torpedoed into him.
Lap 26.
As into the pit lane comes Charles Leclerc. Now, slowing again like Gasly. Watch the right rear. Is it going to be another issue like we saw with Vettel? Indeed it is, another issue. He puts on the hard compound tyre though and gets going with a 4.4 second stop identical to Vettel.
Well, that just proves it that it's the gun on that far right-hand side.
Yeah, the gun is the issue for Leclerc. As Ferrari, they've got to change that before the next stop. We know that Vettel has to stop again. Those soft tyres, those medium tyres won't make it to the end of the race. Leclerc might not have to stop again. He's got the hard tyres. I think that might just be all right. As it's lap 26 to 66, but here we go again, look. Now look, Leclerc is back ahead of Vettel. And now, does Vettel call for a team order to get ahead of Leclerc? Because Vettel's on faster tyres than Leclerc. What's going on here then, down at Sky's control, over to you?
Yeah, Leclerc though has got to wait. He is still doing well. If you look at Vettel just put the fastest lap in.
Yeah.
So there might be a point here to do the reverse of what they did earlier.
Lap 36.
And through goes Sebastian Vettel. Sebastian Vettel is released ahead of Charles Leclerc. The team order has been repaid on lap 36 of 66. That is interesting. What's your thoughts on that, down at Sky's control?
Well, it's got to happen because of the fact that, as you were saying earlier, that he's got much older tyres, and if that's the case, surely the hard tyres will not go off that much.
No, not at all.
Whereas his tyres will keep going off, so he'll need to pit again and things like that.
Lap 41.
Into the pit lane comes Sebastian Vettel, so they're reacting, Dad. They're reacting. We knew they wouldn't be able to. So Vettel now comes in and puts on his second set of brand new medium compound tyre with exactly half the time it took to do the previous second stop. Both of them were 4.4, now it's 2.2. Over to you.
And they've also figured out what was wrong with that gun because that was a smooth stop.
Lap 46.
So that's an old compound. Stroll. Oh, into the wall! That's what you're saying! Stroll into the wall! Lando Norris involved as well! Down at turn 2! And Lance Stroll back with wins into the wall, and Lando Norris, he's bringing gravel all over. The front wheel's gone down as well. Broken suspension, I wouldn't be too surprised. He's brought gravel onto the racing line. We've got two cars involved. That's not an easy pickup. That might have to be the safety car that we were talking about. It is the safety car we were talking about, so that is it. The safety car, where 20% has happened.
Replay.
Take a look what happens. So Stroll defends the inside line. Lando comes around the outside, and Stroll turns in on him, pushes Lando onto the AstroTurf. Oh, that's a very tricky one to call. I don't think Lance knew he was there, but Lando was in a perfectly right position. Let's take a look. So he defends onto turn one. One ball with Lance Stroll. Oh, I think that was blind. I read that as blind. What about you?
I think it's a racing incident, but will his father, who owns the team, think it is after the last few days?
Lap 53.
Go, go, go! Lap 53 is 66 and the race is back underway! Round the outside goes Verstappen! He's going to try immediately and gets back through! But up into third now! Gasly's having a go as well! Big lock up from Verstappen! Everyone's now having a bit of a bargee! Everyone trying left, right and centre! Off the track goes one of Romain Grosjean as well! Magnussen goes out the order as well! Absolutely fantastic! Hamilton leads the way! Look at this! Grosjean and Magnussen side by side! At the inside! They go side by side. Gasly's on the outside line and makes the move stick. Surely into the inside. Yes, he does. And there's a bit of kick dust there. Magnus on the outside, but Gasly keeps on and Gasly gets through. He's not going to have a little bit of a backside there. He knows what he wants and he's going to get it as well.
Lap 66.
Lewis Hamilton, though, what a shocker of a weekend he had. He wasn't fast at all until FP3. He was lost in qualifying. His teammate I qualified him by 6/10 of a second. Out of the last corner. It's once, it's twice, it's 3 times a winner in 2019 for Lewis Hamilton. And for the 5th race running, Mercedes score a 1-2 in a Grand Prix. Valtteri Bottas is second. Max Verstappen third, and it's 4th and 5th for the two Ferraris of Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc.
Next race, Monaco.
So Lewis Hamilton victorious then in the Spanish Grand Prix, his 3rd win of the season, his 2nd in a row, and he got the fastest lap bonus point, which means if Bottas wins next time out in Monaco, they should be level on points. And I'm joined now by pit lane reporter, my father, and overall chatter of the year, I think. Hello, Dad. To everyone else, Ian Birch. Hello, Dad.
Hiya.
The Spanish Grand Prix. Bit of a mix-up on our part that we had to reduce a certain number of laps because we had a power cut. It's a not great thing.
Yeah, and we managed to get it really right in the end. You know, it's good having 2 goes at a live game.
Yeah, at least we made ourselves look at just a tiny little bit like we were telling the future, but it was good. I enjoyed it. We was professional.
We remembered the points we made in the first one, and just added them in.
If you're wondering where Megan is, she's not down for this race. It's been a bit crazy, Megan, in the commentary box this year. She was in Australia, then she wasn't in Bahrain, then she was in China, then she sort of was in Azerbaijan. And then she's not been here in Spain, but she's back in Monaco, but only for the race. It's crazy, isn't it? But she's having a bit of fun, isn't she? And she'll be back with us soon.
Yep, she's got exams at this time of the year.
Yeah. And I'm just having a look and seeing what the points down.
Busy.
Yeah, she can't really sit here and chat Formula 1 to us. Yeah, cheeky as well, as you say. Right then, let's get on to the main points of the race, because it was me and you did the commentary for that one. Twice, as you said. Let's start with the obvious. Mercedes were dominant. Ferrari could have had a chance, but they were too busy battling with themselves. 2 team orders, one to let Vettel pass Leclerc, and then one to let Leclerc pass Vettel. What are they playing at?
Well, I think they're learning on the job because of the fact that the first one, it was right, and it was right when it didn't turn out to get the position that Sebastian wanted. It was right to reverse it again.
The safety car late on in the race with Lando Norris making contact with Lance Stroll, that sort of played into the hands of Vettel, because in that second stint, after he got back past Leclerc with the team order, he was on the hard compound tyre, and he shouldn't have had to pit again, but he blistered them too much, so he did have to pit again. So that safety car sort of gave him a get-out-of-jail-free card, but Leclerc just went tumbling down the order. Is it already this part of the season, Ferrari have got such a bad strategy planning, they've got such a low chance of winning the title. Which driver do they now prioritise? Do they do the four-time champion or the new kid who has proven he's quicker?
Well, with all kids, like with Verstappen, when he came in, you can see the potential there. It's a hard one because, to be honest, Sebastian has lost it a bit. Yeah. And I really think he should have changed teams because he doesn't seem happy all the time there. And today is another example of him overdriving. Remember what they used to say, the old drivers who had the real power in their cars, right? Sometimes to win a race, you've got to just ease off a bit. What was it Nicky Lauda used to say about the fact that when he went in the Brabham, the fan car, Gordon Murray's fan car, that it was all over the place and horrible, and then he took it down a gear and it was like, Sebastian could learn from that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, another one is Jim Clark. He always used to have, and nobody else could drive that Lotus 25, but it was Lotus were famous for their unreliability, but Jim always managed to find the right balance. I don't think he has with his car, Sebastian.
It's knowing when to underdrive, isn't it?
Yeah.
And all these lads can overdrive and make mistakes, which is what Sebastian's doing. Sebastian, when he was at Red Bull, underdrove on a number of races where he knew he had to. Right? So if you have a situation where you're at the back of the grid, right, and you do the examples in F2 where people are put to the back of the grid and they've got a faster car and they think they've got more talent and they just go like torpedoes, my favourite saying. Torpedoes. Like, Kvyat used to be like that, yeah. But this season, Kvyat's learned to take his time, not take chances. And you never get Lewis, mate, doing that. Lewis, maybe it's an instinct with Lewis, but Lewis just knows the speed he should be at, and he goes for it. And if he's at the back, he goes through there, and he could go 2 or 3 laps behind a car until he knows his instinct kicks in and says, now it is. Whereas Sebastian and them, they just go, and Verstappen, right? Verstappen's quite good at it, actually, but Sebastian and Verstappen just come up to the back of a car, and the next corner, instead of judging it, they just go for it, and then they hurt themselves.
Yeah, it is becoming a bit of a noticeable problem with Sebastian. How he just throws it into corners, and he has spun an awful lot recently, and that's because, as you said, he just puts the power down, and the rears just light up, and around he goes. More recently, he did it in Bahrain against Hamilton. So Ferrari, it's questionable who Ferrari are going to favour. And as you say, with Vettel making all these mistakes,
he needs Magnussen's shrink. Magnussen has a driving coach that.
Oh yeah, he does.
He's taught him so much. I mean, what I've just said is basically what Magnussen says his coach tells him.
Yeah, no, it's the thing he always says about driver coaches and using them, but not a lot of drivers actually do. There's only a handful that actually use driver coaches because everyone else says, "Oh, we're not listening to other drivers."
Well, in IndyCar, they all have them, and during race day, they're called the spotters. And they stand in the stands, and they've got a direct radio link to the car, and they tell them who's coming high side, who's coming low. Watch out, there's somebody low, and they prevent a lot of mistakes and prevent a lot of crashes as well.
Definitely. Yeah.
But when in Formula One, you're not allowed that but you are allowed to have people who can talk you through, make you a better driver. I mean, when you think about it, some of these teams have Dr. Helmut Marko, right? Been there and done that. Born in 49, raced in the 60s and 70s, right? He's been there, done that, knows they can't. I suppose it's like in football when you've got somebody in your team that's been a big Premiership star.
Yeah.
You've got to have respect for them. And if you can't know the answers to all the questions. And if they do, then why not find out from them? And that's what a driver coach does.
Yeah, exactly, which is why they should actually be using more driver coaches. Right, just quickly, we'll get on to the race awards that were given out. The DHL Fastest Lap award and the bonus point went to Lewis Hamilton. The DHL Fastest Pit Stop award went to McLaren, just 2.07 seconds. It was the fastest of the race. We pointed that out in commentary. Interesting enough that, I just remembered actually, Vettel's first pit stop was slow, wasn't it? 4.44 seconds. Their next stop under the safety car, 2.22 seconds. So they exactly halved it. That just shows you how much the problem was at the rear.
Can we go back to the driver coach a minute? Because one thing I've just realised is there is a gentleman who is like a stunt driver, and I think he works at Brands Hatch, and virtually every team sends their driver to him.
Yeah.
I can see his face now, and I can't remember his name. But he before he helped.
Did he work with Billy?
Yeah, and he coaches them he coaches all of them into their super license, and they all go and see him and all get taught in big BMWs how to do this, how to do that.
I can't remember that now, and that's really bugging me. I know exactly who you mean as well. I can picture him, but I can't remember.
Yeah, like Martin or Paul di Resta went with Sky to see him and to explain, because you can't. I mean, Toto, right? Yeah. Never drove at the standard but he's got a brain on him that is second to none, and because he was a driver, him and Nicky are great for all the lads that are part of the Mercedes franchise, whether they're driving for Mercedes, things like that. You can always pitch in, can't you, and things like that.
He's been a winning formula at Mercedes for, since 2014, so that's 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 5 years now, 6th year coming. Right, let's get on then to the results and the driver ratings for this one.
Lewis won.
Yeah, and now Megan's not here and she didn't watch the race. She's catching up on it, but because we're doing the podcast and she hasn't got time to watch the race, you're doing the ratings.
Ah, great.
Yeah, so you know how they work. It's 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. And we'll start with the race winner, Lewis Hamilton, who gets 26 World Championship points and has won the Spanish Grand Prix in his 3rd race of the season. Your rating?
So 1 for the top, or
1 for the worst, 5 for the top.
Well, Lewis always gets 5 with me.
Yeah, well, I'd agree there, because he had a great race today. Pole position to... No, hang on, where did he start on the race? He took the lead, didn't he, down to turn 1 with... Bottas was on pole, so he took the lead 3 abreast to turn 1, wasn't it?
Never look back.
Yeah. I had to check the notes. Valtteri Bottas finished in 2nd place.
At the beginning and led every lap.
Yeah, so lights out to check a flag, basically. Valtteri Bottas finishes in 2nd place for Mercedes. Pretty much, he's going to be interesting. He was... Exo factor the championship leader coming into this race. Now Hamilton's taken it. Your rating for Bottas?
4, because of the fact that he lost that lead at the beginning. He was on pole.
Yeah, he was. He could have held it on the inside. Vettel backed out of it, so it's just spatial awareness there.
From then on, he was a team player, and he did well.
Yeah, Max Verstappen finished in 3rd place, getting his 2nd podium of the year for Red Bull, beating both of the Ferraris as well. Your rating?
Verstappen. I give him 4 too, because he got a lot out of that car that wasn't really there.
Yeah, and he got the Driver of the Day award as well. Sebastian Vettel, we've spoken about him a lot already in the 12 minutes we've been on this part of the programme. 4th for Ferrari, arguably shouldn't have been, saved by the safety car, and he blistered his tyres. Your rating?
Sebastian 3, and his team for their 1.
Yeah, Ferrari strategy. It's becoming a running joke, the Ferrari strategy. And next up is a Ferrari, Charles Leclerc in 5th place. Very much the team player today, unfortunately.
2 and 1.
Agreed. Pierre Gasly finished in 6th place yet again. It's been the same top 6 for the opening 5 races of the season. It's the first time that's ever happened in Formula 1. Different order, but the same 6 drivers. So Gasly is 6th for Red Bull.
Well, the reason I'm going to give him 4 is because Gasly has come from Toro Rosso, and that technical mystery that is known as the settings on the steering wheel are totally different, and the lad has really struggled with that. Plus, the extra power means that the braking points are different, and I think this was his best race in a Red Bull.
Yeah, I agree. He's looking good as well going into the next race at Monaco. Best of the rest now, surprisingly, Kevin Magnussen was 7th.
Oh, I thought Magnussen, you get 5 because Magnussen was brilliant. And you talk about driver coaching. His dad taught him how to go through walls and other cars, and he really enjoyed that race.
Yeah. It was very visible.
Both times
for us as well. 8th place for Carlos Sainz in the McLaren at his home venue. Great race from him, and I was there at pre-season testing. I haven't mentioned it before, have I? I don't think I have. Yeah, I was there at pre-season testing, and there was some support there for Carlos, but there's a big worry that it's all going to go in Spain because Alonso was the Formula 1 hook for Spain, but it seems to be there for Carlos.
Well, if you think we missed him when he was in Spain, I'll let you know. He FaceTimed nearly all the time. Me.
Yeah.
And as for Carlos Sainz, right, it was unfortunate for the lad that he couldn't pull out something better in front of his home crowd, and you could see it was disappointing. And talking about it, he was saying about people motivating themselves and things like that. Obviously, as after the race, you could see that both Lewis and Valtteri were very, very tearful because their friend, who is a little boy that's ill, right, isn't very well at the moment, and both of them dedicated their race to him, and to come first and second when they've got that sort of thing on their mind proves how strong not just Lewis is, because we know Lewis is strong, but don't you think Valtteri this year he's proving how strong he is? Maybe his swimmer wife's been battering around the head or something like that. You will be stronger. Smack.
GP3 champion Valtteri Bottas, and he is proving to be the strongest he's ever been in a Formula 1 car. By the way, your rating for Sainz?
Sainz, 4.
4. We've got to hurry up now. I've been given the signal. Because you tried, yeah. Been given the hurry up signal, actually, through the window of the booth. So we'll go on to 9th for Danny Kvyat in the Toro Rosso. Your rating?
4 again for Danny. Danny is a tremendous... He has learnt this season how to drive without smashing people up. No longer a torpedo.
That's the first time that's been happened. 10th and wrapping up the points, Romain Grosjean for Haas as well. Okay race for him, actually, but... not much. We was there or thereabouts. We only saw him at the restart, really.
Mr. Emotional.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Well, Grosjean, right, he swears too much.
Like Gunther Steiner.
Yeah, and Sebastian and things like that. But Grosjean's biggest critic is his little boy. He's about 10 or 11 years old, and he'll turn around and say, if he's had a bad race, rubbish, Dad. And this one he'll go, mediocre. Yeah, Haas with their Ferrari reject car should be doing a lot better than they are.
Ferrari had their upgrade here, and I love. I think Haas get it in Canada, but interestingly enough, in Monaco, Alpha get it first. So they're now turning into the C team.
Oh, I hope they don't get in. I hope they don't become the C team in Monaco.
Oh yeah, definitely so. Yeah.
Because the harbour is quite close. There have been a couple of drivers about 35, 40 years ago that went for a swim.
You've put me through the edge. Alberto Ascari went in.
Oh, that was a lot. That was 60 years ago.
I know, but I'm just trying to think. Who else went in? Prost nearly went in, didn't he? Because he hit the wall quite hard in 82.
It was one of the Brazilian lads.
Oh, Patrese, did he go in?
No, I think... I know Patrese, when you come down and before you're going into the tunnel, I know he went over the wall there, so it could have been Patrese.
Yeah, that was a Portier, probably. Rating for Grosjean?
Grosjean, 3.
You can see why we get so carried away in these podcasts. We should really do a documentary. 11th for Alexander Albon in the Toro Rosso. Okay race for him, but Kvyat was 9th and didn't score any points. But Albon has been strong, and that Toro Rosso, now because it's working closer with the Red Bull, it's becoming a good car.
Yep, Albon is the one to watch.
Your rating?
Albon, 4.
Danny Ricciardo, 12th. He beat his teammate for the first time this year as well. Still no points for Ricciardo, and he's getting up there, but 12th for him. Your rating?
He needs a haircut, so he should go back and find Natalie's kids and ask them for a haircut. But, rating for Danny, 3, possibly 4.
Nico Hülkenberg finished in 13th place as well for Renault, number 27, but scored no points. But it was an interesting race for him all the way, as well during the race. Your rating for Nico Hülkenberg?
The Hulk. I think the Hulk needs... I think he needs a night out. I really think he's uptight, and I think he's a better driver when he's more relaxed. Rachel should go and hit him. And I would say... I would say 2, possibly 3, because he isn't performing.
No. Kimi Raikkonen, 14th on his 299th Grand Prix start. Monaco will be his 300th. 14th for him. Caught out by that safety car and an untimed strategy. Your rating?
Raikkonen's just class. But he is like when you've got a footballer that is a Premiership footballer and you play him in a non-league team or a lower team, and you know that's the problem, right? Alpha or the old Sauber, and they just he thinks more than they do, and they can't catch up with him, and so in this case I give Raikkonen 4, and his team 2 to 3 must try harder.
Definitely. They have the biggest motorhome in pre-season testing, but they didn't have much track time either. Perez was 15th as well, and I'm really been giving the hurry up sign now because where we're recording this, the cup, 2 glasses have just been put in front of us. One of us is water, and one of us is orange juice as well. But they're ordering dinner as well. We've really gone over schedule for what should have been 10 minutes.
Salt and vinegar, please.
There's a running joke here about McLaren hospitality that we used to do in the commentary box as well.
Not a lot.
we may as well just talk about it. We were on about years ago. McLaren hospitality used to be the running joke, and the 2015 Malaysia Grand Prix. Our toaster in our own house caught fire. And
so did theirs.
Yeah, McLaren's caught fire as well. So
virtually on the same lap.
Yeah, so lap 43 of the race, I'm stood there commentating.
And the alarms go off.
And the toaster's on fire. So we have to run out, get that out, and we're fine. And then after the race, we see McLaren wheeling in a brand new orange toaster.
Yeah, we had to go to Curry's.
Yeah, well, it was a better toaster, actually, we got in return. Where were we? I forgot. Perez was 15th for Racing Point as well, now that lunch has been ordered. We have been on here 20 minutes longer than we were supposed to be, so we've really got to wrap this up. Perez was 15th, your rating?
Perez, 3.
Antonio Giovinazzi was 16th overall for Alfa. Poor race for him today. Nearly got lapped if it wasn't for the safety car to put him back on the lead lap. But not a great race for Giovinazzi. Plagued all day by issues with the car. Rating?
3 for him, 1 for his team.
As we said earlier. 2 Williamses. Now, these two... George Russell 17th for Williams. A lap down. And really, is it the car? It must be the car.
It is the car for George, and he's shown if he could have done better in his GP3 car and F2 car.
Yeah, definitely could have. Lap off the pace.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, you just got to get the downforce slightly wrong, like Williams have this year, and you are still fast. You're still gripping the circuit, but in the end, you're too slow. And I feel their car they've got it right in the corners, but it's just too slow in the straights.
I've looked, because I've watched every session as well and watched it, the car doesn't seem any quicker as it did when I was at pre-season testing looking at it. The car looks exactly the same. Everyone else has made progress. Williams has just sort of gone backwards.
Yeah.
Not good.
But they admit they've got it wrong. They admit they've got their aero wrong. And, when they're behind another car, it's just like they're towing a caravan.
Yeah, so you're rating for George Russell?
George, 3. The team, 0.
You can say the same for the team with the next one is Robert Kubica in 18th place, last and a lap down. And I'm really being given as your Scampy's arrived, sir.
Right, two for Robert and 0 for the team. And it's horrible giving one of your own countrymen's team. Williams are such a great team, but they've got it wrong.
Right now, because dinner's actually arrived, the Scampy's there, and it's actually smelling lovely. He's eating as well. We're not filming this in a restaurant, by the way. Out of the race, Lance Stroll, who was sort of punted out of the race, was having a good race up until then. Rating for Stroll, just overall this weekend.
1.
And Lando Norris, 14th, 20th and last overall, punted him out of the race on lap 41, caused the safety car, gave us some action in a great race. Your rating for Lando?
2.
Thank you very much. And
That's because he's a Brit.
That's because he's a Brit. So, what's your thoughts going into Monaco in 2 weeks? As you can hear it munching. I'll ask Megan, and she's just watching the box. Okay, Megan, you've got laryngitis a bit, but rating. What do you think's going to happen in Monaco? Good, bad, or ugly?
I don't know.
Good. Right, quickly. Go on then.
I predict Christian.
Sorry, say again.
I predict in Monaco, Christian will have his thoughts elsewhere because his wife will be on stage.
Oh yeah, Mel B's on it. Right, thank you very much for that. Not Mel B. Mel C's on stage. Who's on stage?
Well, all the Spice Girls, including a certain...
Mel C?
Who's married to Christian?
I forgot he's married to Christine Horner now. Jerry Horner, thank you, Jerry Horner. Of course, how can I know, how can I forget Jerry Horner? Right, that's it then. Sorry, say again, Megan.
She has ginger hair. They all decided which one had ginger hair.
So she's Ginger Spice?
Yes, that's why they call her Ginger Spice.
Well, I know the only one I know is Mel C, who is Paul O'Neill's sister in real life.
I know all of them.
Okay, Megan, you're not very well, obviously, but you're not doing this race in Spain. Quick thought to head to Monaco. What's the Monaco Grand Prix going to be like? Good, bad, or ugly?
I don't know.
Well, thank you, Megan. We'll see you soon. Good, bad, or ugly for the race, Dad?
What, this one or...?
Monaco, 2 weeks. Prediction time.
Good.
Good. Right, that's it from all of us then. We'll see you next time out of the Monaco Grand Prix. But we leave with Lewis Hamilton, the championship leader and a 3-time winner in 2019. Bye for now.